Well, hello everyone, my name is Emer and I was delighted to be asked here today to speak at such an important event. I'm speaking today on behalf of Muscular Dystrophy Ireland, a voluntary member organisation which I joined a few years after my diagnosis. They have greatly assisted me in participating in society through their support services. So at 3 years of age, I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy. This is a neuromuscular degenerative condition. I was too young at the time to notice any difference between myself and my peers. However, my parents did notice some significant differences. I would fall quite a lot due to losing my balance. I struggled to get up off the floor. I was able to walk slowly but independently until I was 16 years of age. And then I started to use a wheelchair because I was becoming increasingly fatigued and unbalanced. So now at 24 years of age, I use an electric wheelchair to get around. So particularly during my teenage years, I became increasingly aware of my deterioration and my condition. Daily activities became more challenging and I needed to ask help to undertake these activities. So during these years, I suppose I became more aware of my condition and gradually I had more questions about my diagnosis. So this meant more checkups and annual appointments. During the year, I would attend neurologists, orthopedic surgeons, respiratory consultants, rheumatologists, and cardiologists, as well as I would attend physiotherapists and occupational therapists locally. Each specialist provided a wealth of information that was specific to their area of specialty. So as Mags has mentioned, I have never been linked in with a neurology nurse. However, I do believe there will be substantial benefits to having a service like this. I think a neurology nurse would be invaluable in terms of linking services. So as I mentioned, in a given year, I would see numerous specialists all reporting on my condition. And it's a real challenge to try and get your head around this huge amount of information. And I think they will be a great help in terms of navigating all this information from the different disciplines. I believe a neurology nurse would be huge help in this regard. Being able to reach out to a single person to contact them when you're feeling overwhelmed with the abundance of information would be hugely comforting. In addition to linking services directly within a hospital, I think they would be a great point of contact for linking with primary care services. So over the years, I would have met with physiotherapists and occupational therapists from my local area. As was the case majority of the time, when I would meet these people, I was the first individual they would have met with SMA, and they never really would have dealt with anyone in a similar situation to me within these services. So as a result of this, a substantial amount of time can be spent on identifying resources and equipment that will be suitable, and it kind of comes down to trial and error. And this is just a long process. And I think it would be fantastic if a neurology nurse was available in these areas to support and make recommendations, as they would have a greater understanding on how SMA or other neurological conditions specifically would affect a person. I also want to mention my transition, I suppose, from childhood services to adult services. So one of the challenges this posed for me was I went and I met a whole new team of specialists. This also happened during my time in adult services where I've come under new specialists. So when I meet a new specialist for the first time, it involves giving them some insight onto my medical history and also mentioning maybe times of significant changes in my condition. So as you can probably imagine, as time moves on, pinpointing times of significant deterioration becomes quite vague, and it's hard to remember. So I feel like a nurse also, in terms of linking reports over the years and from different areas, would be hugely beneficial in the to have this coordination and transfer of information from the different specialty areas. Another crucial benefit of neurology nurses would be in regard to the promptness of access to medical advice. So in relation to spinal muscular atrophy, for myself, issues can arise from time to time that are not permanent. Generally, when this happens, I would schedule an appointment with my specialist for an examination to discuss the issue. Often is the case that by the time I actually get to see my specialist, the symptoms are no longer visible, and therefore an opportunity for a diagnosis can be challenging. A neurology nurse would be a great person to be able to approach in times like this for some quick medical advice. So finally, I just want to reiterate my points. I believe a neurology nurse would be crucial in terms of navigating a new diagnosis and symptoms, linking services between different discipline specialists, and at a more local level, offering support with primary care services. And finally, with respect to the promptness of access to specialist medical advice. So thank you all for taking the time to listen.